Hey, everybody, welcome to Contractor Radio. I am your host, Jim Johnson, and we have another amazing episode for you this week. And as always, we like to start off with what we call the 2-minute drill. It's a quick little bit from us in regards to the content that we're going to be sharing. Our goal with Contractor Radio is to give you something that's entertaining, informational, educational, hopefully strategic and tactical, that helps you move your business forward. We're kind of like your little secret thing that you know about that maybe some of your competitors don't, to help you move you forward and get in control of your business so you can grow it and find that financial freedom and personal freedom that we're all searching for as entrepreneurs. And so today we're going to be talking about this thing called making a customer or even a person in your business the hero. And what we mean by that is there's this hero's journey, or this ability to tell stories about our business that cause there to be some attraction, cause there to be some wanting to be a part of that particular story. And most of the time when we approach these stories from a perspective that we are the hero. The company itself or the individual that is the leader tends to be that hero, but that's not really the goal. We're going to talk about this storytelling aspect of things with our special guest today. I can't wait to bring her on. She is absolutely amazing when it comes to this. But one of the things I did to kind of get down this path myself and to really understand the value of it to our marketing, and really the thing I like most about it is it drives your ideal client. Not just a whole bunch of leads, not just a whole bunch of people that might be interested in our stuff, but it's really attracting the ideal client. And when you have the ideal client in front of you, there's some things that happen. Those things are higher closing percentages. Those things are alignment in what you're after in your purpose. And so you're going to have more experience that is a good experience for your salespeople, your staff, your production team, and everybody else that you have in your contracting business. So I'm going to give you a couple of tools that you could probably go and find really quickly that would help you to better understand this idea of storytelling and the value that it has to your business. And really this idea of power of storytelling. So one of those is to go learn everything you can about the hero's journey. That's where I started. That's this concept of a person being involved in your story that is starting out with a struggle. They come across a guide. That guide gives them the advice they need. They still end up with some obstacles and challenges. And in the end, they figure it all out and they solve all the problems and they achieve the thing that they're after. It's a story arc that's been around for years. It's actually biblical, which is really cool to understand that this thing has been there for a very long time. Now, there's another aspect of this that makes it a little bit more practical for you guys, and something that I've been learning and studying ever since I met our guest. And that idea is this idea of StoryBrand. It's a book written by Don Miller. You can go and download that, put that on your Audible or your Kindle, and spend some time reading that, because you're going to find out the power of great storytelling in your contracting business as we talk today. So this guest that I've got coming on, she holds a very special place in our heart here. She is actually one of our coaches. She is our lead executive champion HR coach, but she's also our champion of marketing, something she's uber passionate about. She understands it. She has a ton of experience at it. And she was brought to us by one of our other coaches. We call them the Northern Sisters. It is so great to have them. And I'm so excited to bring on our absolute rock star when it comes to HR and marketing strategy, Rosalynn Verges. Ros, welcome to the show.
Hi, Jim. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. And one of the things I love about Roz is Roz, despite whatever may be going on in her life, always has a smile on her face. And she's always in a good mood. And it's one of the things we teach. We talk about these habits of leaders. And one of those habits is setting the example. And sometimes we don't always feel great, but we want to set the example for everybody else. And Roz does a great job of living to that core leadership habit of ours here. And so, Roz, we're going to talk about storytelling today. I think you're pretty passionate about that. But before we get there, we want to take just a second out. We're going to hear a word from our sponsor. We'll come right back.
Sounds great.
Want more 5-star reviews from your customers? At Signpost, We make it easy for your customers to give you great reviews on Google, Facebook, Yelp, and more. Our software connects with industry-specific solutions, driving even more reviews from your customers. Drive loyalty and repeat business by sending the right messages at the right times to your prospects and customers. Message your contacts from anywhere, anytime, using text, photos, and video all in one app. Check on progress with campaigns and review generation across Google, Facebook, and Yelp. Visit signpost.com and get your demo today.
All right, and now back to our Contractor Radio podcast with our champion coach here at Contractor Coach Pro, Rosalynn Verges. And again, we're talking about storytelling, the power that has for your contracting business. And we're going to get there, I promise. But before we get there, how did you get to where you are today? Give us a little bit of your backstory so people understand who Roz is and what Roz is all about. And I really hope you include the last thing you were doing before you came to be a part of our team.
Well, I absolutely will, Jim, since it's a really big part of me. But I guess, if we were to count the number of jobs Roz has had, I feel like we'd need probably a spreadsheet to detail it out and all the different roles I've had. But I really started my career in advertising and marketing. I worked for a newspaper. That's where I met my husband. He's a journalist. But I loved that job. I loved being in advertising because I really got to see the power of kind of storytelling and psychology. And watch those come together in the form of art. So it was something I've just always been really passionate about. But then actually one of my clients tapped me in to come and work for their organization doing human resources. It's something I never would have necessarily expected for myself, but I loved it. I had the opportunity to work for a Fortune 500 company and really learn everything I could about business, about operations, and about HR and how to really run a good ship that's focused on culture and people. And then from there, I did HR for quite a few years. I got PHR certified and pursued that career path for a long time, but really found myself missing the marketing and advertising side of things. So I went back into marketing and advertising, worked for an awesome agency, really focused on experiential advertising here in the Twin Cities as well, and got to run some really fun campaigns. And then I kicked off my own business, which is focused on culture and leadership, as you know, Jim. And really found myself really loving that, really loving helping leaders basically do HR and integrate their leadership and their culture into all of their business practices and kind of rethink how they treat their employees. But it was hard to run a business, as you know, Jim. It took a lot of hours. I've got young kids. And ultimately, I actually found myself called into ministry. Something, again, I never could have foreseen, but God just takes us on some really interesting paths in life. And I was really blessed with that opportunity. I loved my time in ministry. And then this year, just kind of in light of everything, with kids being home and doing distance learning, I had the wonderful opportunity. Again, God kind of just steered my ship a little bit in the right direction to CCP, and have loved coming on and being our HR coach and our marketing champion.
Yeah, we couldn't be happier. Obviously, your background is extensive. You have a wide range of skill sets, which we weren't even really looking for you, to be honest. But whenever Jenny came to us and said, "Hey, I got this person. I think she'd be a great fit," and we got to meet you, I knew I had to figure out a place for you. And whenever you find great talent, you make room for that talent. It's one of our core beliefs as being a business owner is, hey, we're going to figure out how to use this talent. And you've come on, you've done a great job with our clients already. They love you. It's one of my proudest things is all of our coaches are loved by our clients more than they love me. That's what I want to see. I want to see our coaches really be the highlight of what we do here. And our customers are really the highlight. It's more about them than it is about us. So what's your greatest achievement to date? Now, we can all go to family, right? So not family, we know that. You can tell your husband and kids later, yes, you're my greatest achievement. But besides them, what's your greatest achievement today?
Yeah, Jim, honestly, when when I hear that question, what comes to mind first and foremost for me is being asked to be someone else's mentor has honestly been one of the most rewarding feelings I've ever had, and one of the most rewarding opportunities. Those relationships that you build in a mentor-mentee relationship, I feel like just give back tenfold to you. And so to be seen by someone else as a leader, as someone that they want to grow and learn from, I think is just a tremendous honor. And it's something that I've really been passionate about in my personal life and in my personal time, is mentoring other female professionals. And so that's definitely been hands down one of my greatest achievements.
No wonder you're a coach. It kind of fits, right? And not everybody can be one. It's harder work than people think, number one. And there's some really close relationships that happen that sometimes people can honestly be uncomfortable with in this leadership position. You really have a lot of responsibility, and we find it very rewarding and very fulfilling, and it seems like you do too. So it's a great match. So let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Let's talk about the power of storytelling, especially for contractors, and why that thing is so important. So can you give us just a real quick breakdown of what do you mean by storytelling when it comes to your contracting business?
Yeah, so basically the idea, Jim, is that you want to start to understand what is the experience that your clients are having, understanding kind of what they're after, what their goals are, and helping them build a narrative around that. I mean, so much of advertising and marketing is about identifying the feelings and the emotions that people are going through in their business, because that at the core is what human beings connect to, right? We've all kind of been, since the beginning of time, we've been storytellers. I think that's so innate in our human nature. And so when we think about it in terms of our contracting business, we're really trying to identify what is the narrative, the purpose that your business serves. How does it help others? And how does it help those individuals really become who they want to become or achieve what they want to achieve? So the idea is really capturing the elements and the feelings that are a part of that whole story, and kind of how we interact and relate to one another. And then being able to share that back so that your clients, your community, that they can see themselves in that, and it's going to attract them and help them feel engaged to it. I mean, I'm sure you know, Jim, you have your friends who are great storytellers and your friends who maybe miss the mark a little bit. Who are those people that you want to listen to? I mean, I know myself, a great story, I'm just sucked right into it, right?
Yeah, the storyteller that comes to mind for me is my grandfather. My grandfather was a great storyteller. He was really good at the setting up of it and setting the scene and bringing the context to it and all of that good stuff, and then the build up and then this kind of climax to it, and then wrapping it all up in this nice, neat little bow. And I have some friends, like you said, I got some friends that are really good storytellers. It's one of the things that I really enjoy. I enjoy storytelling. It's something that kind of prided myself in with my own kids. So I had these stories that were kind of the funny. I have two kinds of stories I tell. Well, actually three. I have funny stories, I have life lesson stories, and then I have scary stories. Scary stories are my favorite to tell whenever I got a group of kids that are about 9, 10-ish to 13, 14-ish. And I've been banned from a vacation spot with other families because I told their kids this scary story on this night. And none of their kids would sleep in their room. They all had to go sleep with their parents. And so the parents are like, you're not allowed to come back again. So I get into it. My kids still talk about them today. And so those things are so memorable. That's what it is for me. This thing becomes so memorable that you constantly are drawn back to it. And that's what we want to do with our business. We want to tell a memorable story that we're not necessarily the highlight of, I think.
Yeah.
And so what's the first thing I got to understand when I'm telling this story? What do I got to understand in order to tell this story?
Yeah, I think the key is really understanding your client. What is that identity that they're searching for? Who do they want to become? What's important to them? What are their goals? I think you have to really have clarity around that end game, what you're working toward, so that you can start to identify the steps that you need to take to help get them there if you're the guide in this situation.
Awesome. So we need to understand what they're trying to achieve or what they aspire to, their goal, that where their end game. This sounds very familiar. It sounds like building a strategy, right?
Yeah.
What's the end goal? And then we can kind of build backwards from that. And then we need to understand a little bit about what our role is. So can you explain to us what our role is as the guide and not the hero, what that actually means?
Yeah, I think the key to really being a good guide is, again, starting with having a really clear understanding of who they are, what's important to them, but then also really asking those questions, understanding that they are on the journey. You're just kind of walking alongside them. And so you need to ask questions that help lead them there, but you don't want to necessarily push them there, right? The other piece, I think, is really being intentional about being empathetic. We follow people who we feel like are in our corners, people who are rooting for us, who have our best interests in mind. And so when we have that connection, I feel like we're much more likely to follow people and to follow that guide. And then the last thing I think too is really being a person that they can trust, a person who has experience, who has the authority, who is able to provide them the knowledge and experience that they don't have without you as the guide.
So I was very fortunate when you first came on. You were like, "Hey, I want to be the champion of marketing." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I am so tired of being the marketing champion at this business. I'm so happy you came on board." And one of the first things you asked me is, "Well, what's your story?" And I went, "Well, this is who our ideal client is. This is what we do for them. This is how we do it. This is what ends up happening whenever we do coach them." And then you walked me through this exercise. It came from that book, right? From StoryBrand. And it helped us really identify, because people, while they get what we do, that we coach contractors, they don't get what it means, really. It's like, oh, you coach contractors, but what does that actually mean? And what we ended up coming down to was that we are their guide to help them get control of their business so they can find that personal and financial freedom that they're after. It was so clarifying for us. Yeah. It's now something that we kind of preach and we know about, and we're telling that story in everything we do, which has spoken more and more and more to those clients. And we're starting to see the results from that now. They're drawn to it because that's the hero they want to be. They want to be in control of their business. They want to grow their business. They want to pursue those passions and dreams that they have outside of their business, as well as in their business, and the success they want for that. And so there's kind of this third aspect of this that's really important. And so there's this, how important is the risk reward outcome of this story?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a guide, we're coming alongside them, and we really want to help them understand what can happen if they take our advice and what can happen if they don't. I mean, it's just kind of similar to being a parent, Jim. I've got my kids, and if they choose not to follow my rules or follow my suggestions, they're going to have a certain outcome, right? But if we don't give any clarity to what those potential outcomes can be, there's not really necessarily going to be the same motivation to follow those recommendations of the guide. And so we do really want to bring clarity to what the risks are and to what the rewards are, so that they can get the full picture. Because that's the part of the benefit as the guide, is we're looking at it from above. We've walked the journey before. If you think about going up a mountain, the guide leader who's taking you up that hike, they've taken that path again and again and again. So they have the path already in their mind. They know where they're going. But the person who's climbing up that mountain for the first time ever, they don't know what's around the bend. They can't see it. They have no idea. And so as the guide, you want to provide clarity to them so that you can help them avoid some of those risks and the obstacles, and ultimately help them reach the reward that they're seeking.
So it sounds to me like I've got to know what the end goal is.
Mm-hmm.
I got to figure out what I got to do to be the guide along that path, but I also got to tell them, what's going to happen one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
If you choose to follow this path, this is what could happen if we do so. And if you choose not to go on this journey together, these are some of the consequences of maybe not following that particular prescription. And so identifying those things about yourself they're not as easy as they sound, like especially when it comes to contracting. So I thought maybe today you and I could maybe give an example for a contractor. You up for that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
I know we didn't talk about that before, but as we were going through this conversation, I'm like, hey, how do we apply this to actual contracts? Because we're talking pretty high level right now, but let's do an example if we can.
Sure.
So I'm a residential contractor.
I'm a homeowner.
Perfect. So we're going to work on this together just a bit.
Sounds great.
And so I need to understand the aspirational goal of you as the homeowner if you're going to find a contractor. I'm trying to find a contractor to do whatever it is. We don't even have to pick a particular trade, but I know I need somebody to do this thing for me at my home.
Yeah. Well, Jim, I'm a busy mom. I've got kids. I've got a husband. We're in distance learning right now. So really, I need somebody that's going to come alongside me and can just take this off my plate. It's heavy.
That was one of the very first things we identified as a contractor back in the day when I was doing my own contracting. It was like, people aren't all caught up in price as much as everybody thinks. They're more caught up in stress. Mm-hmm. Take the stress off me and I'll pay a little more. You put stress on me and make me have to organize everything and all that other good stuff. I'm not going to pay you very much. And so understanding those needs of that homeowner. You're busy, you got kids at home. Like right now, the story might be a little bit different because of this whole pandemic thing that we're dealing with versus what it might have been a year ago or what it might be next year. And so this is something you're looking at all the time. Would I be right?
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. And I think in this step, one of the really critical things is to look at the feeling underneath the thing, right? It's easy to think about the end game or the product that they're getting. It's not so much about that as much as it is about the feelings that they're experiencing below those needs. So is it stress? If it is related to money, what are the concerns or worries that they might be experiencing regarding money? Are you going to do it right? Are you not going to do it right? There's actually trust a lot of times underneath money. So it's really identifying and keying in on the key feeling that that your client or customer is experiencing in that identity.
One thing I know about stories, there's always feel to it, right? Like you get this feel. And so we're looking for what we can identify that the customer is having struggles with, whether it be stress, finances, communication, all these different things that we can supply as contractors that maybe our competitors don't do as good of a job of. And so that's kind of where our story starts. We're looking for this goal to take out the stress, communicate well, do a great job, trust us, all of those factors. And so there's our aspirational goal. Mm-hmm. And so now what does it mean to be the guide in that particular situation? What can we do to take that stress off? What can we do to relieve maybe some of that financial burden? And so can we make things easier by having a very detailed process that you understand and we explain the whole thing instead of just hey, here's your estimate and we'll do the work, right? Like that's a lot of what you see from people is they go out, they take a bunch of measurements, write up an estimate and say, hey, to do that work, it's going to cost this much. But I didn't address their stress. I didn't address their financial concerns. I didn't address their communication concerns, their cleanliness concerns, all these things that people are really concerned about. I didn't address any of those. And if I don't address those, I'm now not their guide. I'm just some guy providing a service. Mm-hmm. And so how could we put that into a guide for folks? How would we present that?
Yeah, I love that question, Jim. So for example, if I'm focusing on this idea of stress, right? You might present the tools or the process that you have in your organization and put those words to it. Say, hey, we know that this process can be stressful because now you're identifying empathy, right? Hey, we get it. We're with you in this. We understand how you're feeling. So I think really highlighting that you understand and then pointing back to how you understand, how you could possibly know. That's kind of that authority and expertise part that we talked about before too. Well, how would you know? Why would you know what it's like to be a homeowner and what it's like to go with this, go through your process?
Yeah, that might sound something like, our process, we've developed it around this concept of, hey, this can be a pretty stressful process. And the reason that we did that is because we've worked with so many homeowners that have gone through stressful experiences before. They've told us about what they've dealt with when it comes to communication and timing and cleanliness and all these things that cause stress because they're busy in their lives. So we developed this thing. So we take that burden off of you by working with us. And so now you're part of the story, right? You're like, hey, I'm your guy, but you're still the hero, right?
Absolutely. And I love what you said about the fact that you kind of positioned it in that example, Jim, of we listened to our customers, right? You're kind of you're showing that again, not only is this our expertise, but we gained this expertise because we've guided other heroes. We've been through this process with other people and we care. We took time to listen, to ask what our clients needed.
Yeah, I think one of the most valuable things that contractors can do is ask more questions up front to find out what that aspirational goal is, because it can be different for different people. And I might have a bit of a different story or share a different piece of the story to that particular thing. All right, so now I've given them the recipe for the guide. I'm like, hey, this is what we're going to do to solve that issue for you. How would I go about delivering this reward versus risk outcome? What would that possibly look like?
Yeah, I think you have to, again, it goes back to kind of identifying those pieces up front, having clarity with your team around what risks do your clients experience if they don't work with you. So having clarity maybe about some of the differences that your competitors might have. What are the downfalls? I mean, I think a great way to find that is look at some Google reviews, find out what some of your competitors struggle with, and then kind of speak into the fact that there are other people out there that aren't going to do it the way that you're going to do it and that aren't going to follow this stress-free process, for example. And hey, that could mean for you more stress, more time, more work. I'd hate for you to have to experience that. So instead, by working with us, we can ensure that you'll have less stress, you'll have a follow-up process, and you'll have the clarity and the trust that you want.
Do you have any suggestion on which order to put those two things in, the consequence or the risk versus the reward side of things? Would I go with reward first and then the risk, or do I lay out the risk first and then the reward?
I personally like to go with reward first and then go with risk and then go with your call to action. So I think you definitely want to end with a really strong call to action, but I like to kind of lead with that reward, let them know the risk, and then follow up with that call to action. That kind of in that call to action, you're kind of relacing in that reward a little bit.
So we got to ask for something. I like that. And the beauty of this storytelling, the thing I think I like most about it is it applies to multiple facets of our business. If you look at it from a strategic standpoint in your business, it applies to marketing. We're going to tell this story. Everything we do, we're going to tell this story. And this story is focused on them being the hero and us being the guide. And this is the pieces and parts of that story, laying out maybe chapters and really kind of thinking of it that way. But in your sales presentation, so that was marketing, now I'm talking sales, in our sales presentation, laying that same exact story out so that there's consistency between your marketing and your sales. And then the other piece that I think that is really kind of like the linchpin to this storytelling thing is, what's the story you're going to tell your people? How are your people that work for you the hero, and you're their guide? And so you're our HR rock star. Can you give us a little feedback, some insight into that and why it's so valuable?
Yeah, Jim, I kind of brighten up when we talk about this stuff because this is kind of my favorite world. It's like bringing the two pieces together, HR and marketing, kind of meet at this beautiful intersection of applying these same principles internally to your team. Your employees really are going to be the people who are going to ultimately help you reach your vision, your mission, your goals. You can't do it without them. You know that. If you could run your business without them, you would. right? Because we know it's work, we know it costs money to have employees, but in most cases, people desperately want their employees to be a part of their team. They want them to be happy. They want them to feel like they are a part of the success. But then somehow we kind of miss the mark in actually communicating that back to them and helping them see their importance in your business, helping them see their importance in you reaching those goals. And not even just the company goals, but those community impact, those larger purpose goals. So whatever kind of that vision or purpose you have for your organization, you need to be able to connect that story back to your employees. And what that's going to do for you is the same thing that it does in the marketing world or the advertising world, is it starts to create brand loyalty, right? Now it's not just about the job that they're doing or a task that they need to execute on. It's about them being a part of purpose, which is why everybody wants to come to work ultimately.
So here's the beauty of this storytelling thing that I think is maybe the most key point of it, is by telling this story, whether it applies to your customer or your people, and what that story might be and how you're their guide to help them achieve their aspirational goal and this reward risk outcome of that. By doing that, you start to involve them in this overall idea of what you're after. They get to become a part of that story. They feel ownership. They feel empowerment. They feel this idea that you're there to help them achieve what it is they're after. And by doing so, you achieve what you're after. When you bring somebody into that, you do get loyalty. You do get this idea that you're a part of something. As that story becomes more and more told, and you tell it more and more, it starts to predict who your ideal customer is. They're going to come to you. That's who's going to be attracted to your story, making your ability to close that deal or have them become a customer much more likely. But it also attracts the right employees. These employees that want to be a part of a story like the one you're telling. And that story doesn't fit everybody. It only fits the right people for your organization. And so this power of storytelling for contractors is two-faceted. It's for your clients and also for your people. But the cool part is it's going to attract the right people in both circumstances. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 1,000 times over, I would agree with that, because it's those people that, you're finding those alignments. And again, that's where it takes effort and energy to actually understand what are those aspirational identities of your employees and your team members. And that can happen through one-on-one coaching meetings. It can happen through employee performance reviews. It can happen through water cooler conversations, right? But it is identifying those pieces and connecting them together, really finding how they're aligned and how they're synergistic so that you can help those people kind of see themselves in the story. Because again, your employees and your teams, they won't identify them naturally, just like your clients won't identify it naturally. You can't count on them to just know that they're the right fit or you're the right fit. You really have to show that to them and tell that story for them.
It's a big thing whenever I'm interviewing a new coach or considering bringing a new coach on, that I want to share that. I want to share that story, what our vision is, or the part we play in our customer's journey, how it's going to affect them personally in their own lives. And it gets us on the same page really quickly. And if they're aligned with it, they want to be a part of it. If they're not, it makes the decision very easy, and they're like, no, not interested. And that's really what I want. I want to know, are you interested now? If you're not, great, I need to move on. If you are, let's do this together and let's make something special. And it's cool I'm so excited. Like, we're in the middle of telling this story of Contractor Coach Pro right now. Like, we kind of know the ending, but everybody else doesn't. And we're building all those things right now, and we're really kind of almost writing the book is maybe the way to kind of look at it. I am so excited to see the climax, the achievement, where this all goes in the end. And you've been a big part of it. I thought what you needed to share today is something that all owners should be looking at now. This is a good time of year. This is early in the year. What's your story? What's the story you're going to tell because brand isn't the logo on your hat. Brand is your story. It is who you are and what you're about. And that story isn't about you. And I think if we can get those things kind of down and start to approach our business from that aspect, we can be much more successful. So I got another question for you.
Yeah.
But before we do, let's take a quick break for one of our sponsors.
The Atlas Pro Plus Contractor Program is designed to help you build your business. It gives you tools and resources, training, industry insights, bonus structures, technical knowledge, the brand power and science of 3M Scotchgard, and what we think is the best product and warranty in the industry. Become part of the family that is succeeding and growing their businesses.
We went from nobody ever heard of us to the #1 roofing company in our region.
And we've gone from 12 roofs a year to 20, 35, and we did over 400 last year.
We're on track right now to do 1,000 roofs this year.
You'll begin earning Atlas bucks and rewards as you move up to even greater reward levels. Become an Atlas Pro today.
All right, and now back to our Contractor Radio podcast. We are here with Rosalynn Verges, the Contractor Coach Pro head coach for our HR and organizational discipline that we teach our contractors, and she's also our marketing champion. And we've been talking about brand storytelling, the power of storytelling for contractors. So I want to get a little bit of insight from you. And hopefully probably regarding this, what's the best advice you've ever gotten from a mentor?
Yeah, I think definitely regarding this, one that I love is to actually write down your stories and kind of identify your own stories or experiences that you've had and put them in categories. So like if you, just like you said earlier, Jim, if you have stories that really speak to that speak to times that you've been struggling, or a story that speaks to a time when you were really able to help someone, or a story that speaks to whatever scenario that you think you'll be talking to that relates to your client needs, to write those down, because then you have kind of a list that you can draw from, and you're not trying to think of it at the top of your mind, but you actually have them kind of in a folder, so to speak, that you can just pull that story out, reference it, and share it back to people.
Sounds like something I did for about 2 weeks this past August. Went and sat down and wrote a story about all those different things. It was a lot of fun. And I do enjoy that time. Here's one thing I found about writing things down. If you write things down, they are reinforced better. They're better for recall. You're able to not necessarily have to look at them to read them to tell somebody that. You actually can recall it a lot quicker if you write it down. So that is really good advice. All right, last question.
Okay.
We all only have so much time on this planet. And here at Contractor Coach Pro, we hope that time that we spend here has some massive impact. We want to affect people in a positive way in the long term, and hopefully beyond our existence here on this little blue ball of water and air and earth. We're all going to go, and that time is going to come for all of us. When it does for Roz, how do you want to be remembered? What do you want your legacy to be?
I think I really just hope that people remember me as someone who invested in them, who saw the best in them and helped them see that in themselves. I have a very pastoral heart. So I think really just wanting other people to see that they have a greater purpose, that they're children of God, and that they can achieve what they have their hearts or minds set after. I think really just want to help people be able to live out who they've been designed to be.
That is so awesome. There's a reason you're here. There's a lot of alignment with that. I think it's a question we should ask. If we want to tell our story, we need to understand our story very well. And one of the things that you can do to start to identify the pieces of your story for the story you're going to tell to your people is to talk to your people. Start there. Ask them, why do you exist? What are you here for? What's your purpose in life? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? And you start to challenge people to think beyond today's tasks or this week's goal or this year's achievement or whatever that may be. And they have to think a little bit deeper. And we do this with clients when we go into their offices and when we talk with their people. And it's almost like you see them kind of take a step back for a second because they haven't really thought about it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do. We want to facilitate people's purposes on this planet, empower them to believe in themselves and us as hopefully their guide. And ultimately that there's a higher power in charge of all this, that if we are after something, we can achieve that thing if we want it bad enough. Mm-hmm. If we believe in it badly enough. Roz, this has been even more excellent than I expected it to be. I knew it was going to be great. This is really good. I hope that our listeners take this and really digest it for a little bit. Go out and grab that book, StoryBrand. It's a really good guide to doing it. If you need help with it, obviously we're here to help with those kinds of things. It's what we work on as a strategy for contractors. And thank you for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Jim. Thanks for letting me be a part of the story.
No problem at all. And I'm sure we're going to have you back here in the future because we'll probably talk about employee experience and handbooks and all that really fun stuff that gets Roz all excited. But it's important to our businesses. And so we look forward to seeing you again in the future.
Thanks, Jim. Take care.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking time today to spend some time with us here at Contractor Radio. I want to kind of wrap this up with some takeaways, some things that you really might want to consider after listening to this podcast, maybe something you can do right away. So number one, if you're wanting to learn how to start storytelling for your business to attract your ideal clients and your ideal people, go out and grab that book, StoryBrand. Good place to start. Go do some investigating into the hero's journey. All you got to do is Google that, the hero's journey, and you'll see all kinds of stuff come up on Google. Invest some time in your learning. That's what we do as leaders is we need to realize we don't know it all. And go out there and grab that learning, share that learning with our people, and get them to be a part of our story. Remember, there's kind of three main pieces of this that we wanted you to take away from today. You need to understand the aspirational goal of your hero, whether that be your client or your people. You need to understand what it means to be their guide. How are you going to be by their side, walking them down this path to the ultimate achievement or goal that they're aspiring to achieve? And then finally, what is the reward or risk of taking that path or not? The reward of, hey, things are going to go great and be smooth and you're going to really enjoy your time with us is one way. The risk is if you don't go with us, there's these other things that could happen. And so lay that thing out. And I think Roz really included a key important part after that third piece is the call to action. And let's do something now, whether that's purchasing from us as a contractor, the services we provide, coming on with us and getting hired to be on our team. It's clicking to fill out a form as interest in getting a free inspection, whatever it may be, whether it's marketing, sales, or your people. Start applying the StoryBrand telling to your processes. This idea of this story that you're there to be the guide to help somebody else become the hero. Hope you enjoyed our show today. We look forward to having you again in the future. Remember to click that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We're going to bring some heavy hitting content all year long. And also make sure you download, because when you download, you can listen to it anytime, anywhere, any place, while you're skiing, while you're mowing the lawn, while you're washing the car, while you're working out. Get better at what you do. And we want to give you the opportunity to do that through some of the experience and experts that we bring on board here that hopefully entertain you a little bit, inspire you a little bit, educate you a little bit, and give you the strategy and tactics you need to get control of your business so you can grow it and find that financial freedom and personal freedom that you're searching for as a contractor. We'll see you next week on the next episode of Contractor Radio.